What did your roommate from hell do to earn their title? Story 1. My roommate was a total slob, and I am not saying this lightly. He would eat dinner on the couch, then put his dirty plate with scraps and bones under the couch. I would have to check constantly for that, or else we would get some foul smells. One time he had pancakes and put the plate under the chair, and due to a large amount of leftover maple syrup, we got ants. He would just trash everything and made the house disgusting. Finally, I had enough and I stopped cleaning up after him. I just let the house fall into total ruin. He then started staying at his parents' house, telling them and our friends that I was a slob and he couldn't handle it anymore. He eventually moved out and lives with his girlfriend now. She complains constantly that he is a slob. Story 2. Burned holes through the bottom of my pots making instant ramen and maple syrup instead of water. She forgot it on the stove while playing the bongos in the living room at 2 a.m. with some dude she'd brought home off the street. Story 3. She had the landlord return the security deposit in her name, even though I'd paid it in full. It was $1,800. When I asked the landlord for the deposit back, he said he already gave it to her and I had to work it out with her. I was 19 and didn't know any better. Needless to say, she never paid me back. Still bitter 20 years later. I worked full-time in college and her parents paid her way. $1,800 was a lot of money back then. Story 4. She released my pet iguana into the wild. She blackmailed me via email from the next room. I caught her going through my nightstand when I came home from work. When I moved out, she poured baby oil and soy sauce all over my N64 Sega and controllers. She ran a needle across my favorite DVDs. I got her back though and got my consoles professionally cleaned. Story 5. Woke up every day to rock music at 4 a.m. for swim practice. Except he'd keep hitting snooze so I'd hear it 2 to 5 times in a row. And he'd be late so his teammates would start banging on the door. I was a double science major working multiple jobs. I went to bed at 2, coming home from the library. So no sleep for me, I guess. I would have to wake up at that time on weekends for my landscaping job and he would bitch and moan about it. The fucker never left the room, even when I would bring a girl back and would just sit there and watch Netflix on my TV. I can't smell, so it didn't bother me, but all my guests said it reeked in there, since he never showered. The second semester, I moved out and lived in the chem library. Instant improvement. Never had a roommate since. Story 6. One of my first flatmates in London was weirdly into me. One time I took a friend home cause she was too drunk to take the tube by herself. My flatmate saw us getting home and asked me if she was my girlfriend, and I said yes, hoping he'd leave me alone after this. Big mistake. He asked if he could sleep with us in my bed. My friend was passed out at this point, and said he wouldn't do anything, just wanted some human contact. Creepy as hell. Moved out shortly after that. Story 7. We already weren't getting along, but never escalated beyond minor spats. That is, until he put nail polish remover into my facial moisturizer. He denied it when I confronted him, of course. I was even accused by my other roommates of putting it there myself. Obviously, I moved out like 2 weeks later. BC, the landlord refused to let me put a lock on my bedroom door. My new place was furnished and I moved out ASAP, so it took me a couple of extra days after I moved to get all my furniture out, including my bed. When I arrived to get my bed, there were fresh bodily fluids on my sheets and pillowcase. That's right, the motherfucker jacked his putrid dick off onto my pillow. Morgan, wherever you are, I hope you're fucking miserable. Edit. I love you all so much, you're all invited to the Fuck Morgan Club. Story 8. She stole my underwear, wore them, and then reported me to our boarding school for having personal, inappropriate underwear when I confronted her for stealing them. She got in trouble for theft, but I still got in trouble for having clothes outside the dress code, even though I threw them out after I saw them in her dirty laundry hamper. Story 9. I had a coworker who was living at my home for some weeks. Wasn't especially clean, and sometimes he drank my beers, but overall, it was an okay situation. One day, he told me he was moving back with his wife, and I said it was cool, he could take his things out whenever he needed, not a rush. Almost immediately, I found someone else who was looking for a room, and I told him, yeah, you can move in on Monday. Monday morning, I woke up and there is a bicycle in my living room. Weird, how did he get in here? I thought, went to the kitchen, and found my ex-roomie banging a woman there, someone who wasn't his wife. I threw his stuff outside and asked for the keys. It was a little awkward afterwards at work. Story 10. Before my husband and I were married kids, we had a roommate from hell. He was an alcoholic and would do weird-ass shit like eat a whole package of hot dog buns and throw the wrapping back in the pantry. The one time he did the dishes, he got extremely mad and pissed the rest of the day. He tried to come between my husband and me as a couple many times. He proudly claimed that once my husband had passed out drunk and that he, said roommate, had sex with him. It's not true, but he said it for years anyway, despite that actively being rape. He tortured our cat and then wondered why the cat didn't like him. He was a bad roommate, but even more a bad friend. Story 11, not mine. A friend of mine had a good stereo and a tremendous record collection. His roommate never showered and never changed his sheets, didn't go to class, talked about his dream of going to Nepal and scoring weed. Spent his time playing ping pong in the student center. He flunked out as a freshman. A taxi arrived. He took the stereo and the record collection and left. The cops got him. Still, not a great roommate experience. Story 12. I once had a roommate who kept cranking the temperature way up. I'm talking like 28 degrees Celsius or 85 Fahrenheit. The landlord kept coming over to turn it way down as he was paying the bill. This meant we had the landlord coming over basically every day for a month. Finally, he turned the temperature to a very generous 22 Celsius and set up a lockbox to cover the thermostat. My roommate came home, got wasted, took a hammer and smashed the box to pieces and turned the temperature up to 28 degrees again. This by itself was just mainly amusing, but he also was stealing my stuff, borrowing money without paying it back, and hosting late-night dance parties to Nelly Furtado music. He claimed he had never used a vacuum in his life and didn't know how. One time he put a frozen pizza in the oven together with the cardboard. I smelled burning and raced downstairs to remove the smoldering paper from the oven before it caught fire and burnt our house down. I asked him what he was thinking, and he said, "That's the way we do it in Spain. No shame, no apology." Story 13. My college roommate ran out of the pot, so he tried to boil down his bong water to hash in my microwave using my Tupperware. The residue ended up fusing with the plastic at the bottom of the container, so he scraped it out with a razor blade and smoked a big bowl of plastic and bong water concentrate with the windows closed. Hey, if you like the video so far, consider subscribing and liking the video for more. Story 14. Started doing small amounts of methamphetamines regularly to treat their self-diagnosed ADHD. Did seem to help for a short time, but then quickly descended into large amounts of crystal meth almost all the time. The breaking point was when they presented a 30-plus bullet point itemized list to all roommates about the things they didn't like about us, including things like 3 crumbs were left on the counter after cooking, and chair not pushed in perfectly at the table after standing up. Then they began stockpiling guns in their room. Luckily, lease was up for renewal, and we all noped out of there quickly. Story 15. Not super terrible, but we went to a party. He got drunk super quick and saw some people he didn't want to be around and walked home. About an hour later, I and my other roommate headed home too. When we pulled into the driveway, we saw lights on in the living room, which quickly went off. When we got inside, we saw a massive person-sized hole in the hallway wall into the bathroom. Our roommate was pretending to sleep, and when we asked him what the fuck happened, he said someone broke in and didn't try to steal anything, but just busted a hole in our wall, from inside of the bathroom into the hall, I should add, then slipped out the still locked back door. They didn't see him laying on the couch at all either, apparently. Edit. The dude was a compulsive liar. My favorite lie was that he had his whole head tattooed to look like a skull, but it faded so no one can tell anymore. Story 16. She kicked my cat so hard that she almost killed her. We'd been friends since we were 15. Fuck you, Samantha. ETA. This happened 30 years ago, and I'll never get over it. I was 21 and poor, so saving her was a huge deal financially. The vet is a fucking saint. I'm so thankful she survived the ordeal. She was a trooper. She lived to be 19. After Samantha moved out, a mutual acquaintance told me it was sad I let a friendship go over money. Fuck you. Story 17. In my sophomore year of college, my roommate invited her boyfriend from New Zealand to come live with us. These were dorm rooms, so it's not like she had a private space. This guy was living rent-free in our room all the time. He was nice enough, but it was impossible to get anything done, including studying during finals week when he had nothing else to do, so he just watched TV constantly. When I brought this up to my roommate and said that I would appreciate it if he did not stay for the next semester, she got extremely huffy and moved out. Thankfully, they didn't charge me for her half of the room, so I ended up with a single for the cost I had been paying for a double, so I guess it all evened out. There was also the time that she, an art major, decided her final project would be to leave a plate of food in the room and let it rot and take photos as some sort of a statement on the breakdown of society. Didn't really understand that one, but that didn't help for sure. Story 18. He would always leave his dog for too long and she would shit on the floor. It was an old dog, and I'm sure at one point it wasn't an issue. The problem was this guy didn't even try to do anything to fix the issue. I'd get home from work every day and walk into a house that punched me in the face with the shit smell when I opened the door. We talked to him about it over and over again and he'd just blow it off. What did he finally do when he got fed up with us complaining? He put the dog down. We just wanted him to maybe come to walk her while on break at work. His job was 5 minutes down the road. I can still feel the tension in the room when we found out she was gone. Story 19. Dealt drugs out of the place, started to cook something and passed out starting a fire. Didn't pay his share of the rent, brought a Kalashnikov into the place. Dude knew nothing about guns or gun safety. I stole money, a PlayStation, and items, food, clothing, money, though it took a while to prove it. Tried to convince all of us to do drugs with him, left heroin needles around. One of the roommates was a former heroin addict, and he leaned _hard_ on him to try to get him to do heroin again. Failed. A couple of us managed to break the lease and GTFO. He broke into all of our cars in retribution and threatened us and stalked us after we moved to a new place. He wound up in prison for a year, and when he got out started a fight that ended very badly for him, with him in intensive care in a hospital, and that was the last I heard of him. Story 21. To name a few things. Would have the loudest sex one could have with their partner. Loud enough that I got at least 3 unique complaints from neighbors. Physically threatened me on multiple occasions. Cooked disgusting meals and covered the kitchen in food scraps and generally did nothing to clean. Her dog would poop on the floor pretty much every day, sometimes more than once, and took no effort to train away the behavior. She invited herself to my neighbor's party when I was there, even though she wasn't invited, proceeded to make an ass of herself. Would make constant targeted comments about me smoking weed, even though we're in a legal state. Destroyed 3 cars in her 8-month stay, all in unique ways. Threatened suicide to make me feel like her behavior was somehow my fault. These are just what I can remember at the moment. Story 22. Back in the early 90s, a bunch of us rented a house from a local boxing promoter gangster. After a few months, 3 of my friends moved out to go to university and the landlord moved in 3 of his associates. One was Gus. He was a friendly alcoholic. On the first night, he fell asleep on our sofa in the front room and pissed himself. He once dragged me into his room for a chat and proceeded to proudly show me his only possessions, a pile of newspapers, a 10-inch dildo, and a sawn-off shotgun. He was married to 2 women simultaneously, neither knew of the existence of the other and their kids, but neither of them could stand him, so he spent most of his nights falling down in various parts of our house. I once found him asleep with his face in a plate of curry and his trousers round his ankles. Once his wives found out where he was staying and started turning up on the doorstep at all hours, I knew it was just a matter of time before their visits coincided and all hell broke loose, so it was time to make an effort to find another home, minus the pissed sofa. Story 23. He got drunk and threw my PS4 controller at my TV, which shattered the screen. Instead of admitting this, he staged a robbery in which robbers ransacked my place and stole all of my shit. Every piece of furniture was overturned, smashed, and broken. I found out it was him when I discovered he threw everything I owned of value into the dumpsters outside to make it look like they had been taken. The police were also apparently called on him by a neighbor who heard the commotion, and the police found him in his room crying his eyes out, belligerently drunk. I went and spoke to the police after dumpster diving for my personal belongings. They asked if I wanted to press charges. I said no, but told his parents he needed some fucking help. Never spoke to him again after quite a long friendship. Story 24. University. One roommate moved out, switching with this weird Russian without telling me. The guy ended up being some sort of gun runner. Got arrested, and hung himself in jail. When I went into his room after, he had pictures of all the university's female athletes on his walls, but he'd cut all their eyes out and had shot them with a BB gun. Story 25. Was placed in the barracks with a dude the barracks NCO nicknamed Pigpen. The dude was on the boxing team, and while he worked out hard, was asleep when I left for work after PT, and was out on the town when I got home. Would come back to sweat-soaked point gear on the floor of the bathroom, toiletries on the sink area, and no TP, because he would use an entire roll of TP in one shitting. I asked him multiple times to clean up after himself because if one of the barracks people walked by and saw the mess that he left, it would be me that gets in trouble because I outranked him. I told him I would throw away his toiletries if he didn't pick them up. So I did. I put a new bag in the trash can and gently placed all of his toiletries in the can because I'm an asshole, not a dickhead. When he came home and questioned where his stuff was, he proceeded to thrash the trash bag around, breaking all his own shit. I would put his sweaty ass point gear on his pillow. I also got to lock up my TP because he wouldn't buy any of his own. Story 26, dorm roommate, slept 16 hours a day. If he wasn't in class or out with his weird little friend smoking salvia, he was sleeping. He'd bitch at me for any noise I made. I ended up spending a lot of time in my girlfriend's dorm. Story 27, he was technically my boyfriend, but he was staying with me, so he was also my roommate. Anyway, caught him cheating and promptly kicked him out. Since he didn't have the key to the apartment, I left my place unlocked while I was at work so that he could get his shit out. Which he didn't do. I ended up dropping his shit off at his mom's house. What he did do instead was steal my pet snake. I don't know what he did to him. Like if he just let him go outside if he took him with him. I know he's not in my apartment. It's really not that big of a place, and I tore it up every single day for nearly a month straight trying to find him. He had escaped once before when his old enclosure broke, but I found him within a few hours. The enclosure I had for him after that incident was escape-proof. And there's absolutely no trace of him anywhere. Story 28. My college roommate would lay on our couch all day and night, shirtless, playing online poker and watching sports on the shared TV. He mooched everything. Stole my food, alcohol, weed, etc. He didn't work. He was just always there. I would hang out at the neighbor's house mostly because it was so annoying and obnoxious. He'd wander over late at night when we'd all be drunk and try to trade my food, alcohol, etc. for things at my friend's house right in front of me. Story 29. I had a roommate from hell in college. He was assigned randomly by the school and the dorms. What made him the roommate of hell? He was from Hell, Michigan. He was a great guy. He was quite clean and generally respectful of everyone. Thought I'd inject a little positivity with my technically correct answer. Story 30. I had 3 randomly assigned to my college dorm. They stole my food, had sex against our shared wall, had a fuck ton of people over at all hours, had the TV on max volume till 4 a.m., and did not quiet down when I asked. In fact, they banged on my door wall at random intervals to make sure I wasn't getting any sleep. Called me names and spread rumors to turn the whole dorm floor against me. Ra apparently didn't give a fuck. 2 years of sleep deprivation and social isolation do shit to you, man. Story 31. This was my senior year of college. There were plenty of things that crowned her the roommate from hell, including smoking 6 blunts a day, and leaving the ashes all over the bathroom and kitchen, having her boyfriend and his dog move in without asking. The loud and frequent fighting and sex, etc. However, every time she cooked with her boyfriend, which was almost nightly, she left a pile of dishes in the sink. So naturally, within 2 days, the sink was overflowing and there were no dishes or utensils to eat with. We had a dishwasher, which made this way more infuriating. Anyway, one day I completely had it when I saw little bugs flying around the kitchen. I told her she needed to do the dishes immediately and left for work. When I came back, the dishes were in fact done. However, she had left behind the one single knife I had used that morning, dirty in the sink, even after I had washed and cleaned up after her for months. The level of petty was astounding to me, and honestly, I think about that incident often. Story 32. Wrecked my collection of Japanese kitchen knives. At the lunch, I prepared my child for school. Prepped an entire Costco pack of chicken breasts that I had purchased and claimed them all as hers. Left a bottle of hair dye on the floor after dyeing her hair and ruined the hardwood and carpet. The list goes on and on. She was a classmate of my wife's who was down on her luck, and we let her rent a room from us for a few months to help her out. At the end of 4 months, she packed her stuff up and said that she didn't think she owed us anything as she is a single woman and we were a family of 3. She did not pay a single bill or for any groceries for the entire 4 months. She stayed at our place. I hope she is doing well. You can share your own story in the comments below.